The Adventures of Mark Twain by Huckleberry Finn, with considerable help from Burleigh and Bear Blitt. Warning to the reader. Be advised that the author of this book, Huckleberry Finn, is not a writer. In fact, he almost never went to school, and as far as we know, he has never written another book. Mr. Finn is, well, a boy, after all. That is why this story contains some strange ways of speaking and spelling. It's the way many children, and grown-ups, spoke and spelled a long time ago in America. The editors of this book felt it might help readers if they were prepared for some of the special ways Mr. Finn speaks. For instance, Mr. Finn almost always uses the word ain't when we say isn't or is not or have not. Furthermore, Mr. Finn often leaves out the letter G at the ends of words. For example, he says watchin' when he means watching. Mr. Finn uses old-fashioned words as well, like I reckon instead of I think. Sometimes he uses whole expressions that may make you stop and wonder. He'll say poke a shovel into when he means to be nosy about or interested in something, or there weren't much sand in his craw when he means that someone doesn't want to do something. But trust us, you can figure them all out, even if you have to stop here or there, and along the way you'll get the real Mark Twain story. The story of one of America's greatest writers is told to you by, yes, his most famous character. About why I is writing this book. You don't know about me without have you read a book by the name of Adventures of Tom Sawyer or another book by the name of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? Yep, you guessed it, that's me. Now, them books was written by Mr. Mark Twain, and he told the truth, mainly, except for a stretcher here or there. But what about Mark Twain his own self? I ain't no highfalutin talker, but I suppose I know about him as well as about anyone. Better most, I reckon. Didn't we float down the same river, laying by and looking up at the sky all speckled with stars? Didn't we climb the same hills, terrible long and steep they was too? And didn't we play cops and robbers in the same woods? Well, thinks I, why don't I write down Mr. Twain's adventures the way he writ mine? Ain't Huck Finn got to say? I reckon that you've seen a picture of Mark Twain. That's him over yonder, when he was an old feller. Always wearing a clean white linen suit, which, between you and me, makes me feel gusset up and hog-tied just to look at. But there's something you maybe ain't learned yet. Mark Twain weren't even his real name. His real name is Samuel Clemens, and it's Sam I mean to fix on. Not to worry, though. This ain't intended to be some windy biography. I don't lean to writing, and I don't fetch to books much neither, especially long ones. But here goes. About when Sam was a boy. People's always blabbing about Sam's boyhood, so I guess I should start with that myself. Him being an author, you might expect he went to one of them fancy pants schools people don't brag about. Heck, Sam hardly went to school at all. He grew up being poor, same as me, in a dusty village set sideways of the Mississippi River. But being poor ain't fun. Being poor don't mean not having fun. Sam was born excited. He did stuff. He trained, skylarked, and poked his shovel into whatever tricked his fancy. He loved that big rolling Mississippi much as I did. He swum in it. He slung his fish baits in it. Winters even skated on it. Sometimes he'd swim out on an island in the river and lay off and loaf all day, watching them big steamboats come chugging and going, playing hooky free from the school miserableness. Truth is, Sam unliked school about much as I did. Sometimes him and his pals climb on up to a big cave near the town. They powwow being outlaws like Robin Hood. Sam put this into his book about me and Tom Sawyer, and it's all true. That cave was mighty dark and deep. Yep, they was choice times. Sam pretty much went the whole hog and did what he pleased. Free as a jay, looking out sharp for fun. But things about to change. 'Cause Sam's pap up and died, and that's when Sam was just 11. About Sam the Steamboat Captain. This was a hardship on Sam for sure. Boon times is over, and he had to quick become a man. I disremember exactly when, but after a long spell, Sam's old love of the river came back in spades. He'd always had a hankering to run one of them big steamboats. When he was just a little older than me, he paid old riverboat captain to teach him the ropes. It weren't easy neither. Steamboating ain't something in a saphead can get the hang of. The river's full of bends and snags and fast currents. Sam said the Mississippi was like a book, with a new story to tell every day. He'd stand on the top deck, hands on the wheel, feeling like a king. And I know how he felt. Maybe in Sam's story about me, I just steered a raft. But ain't it the same at night on the river, when everything's dark, and the logs are drifting, mournful and lonesome, and lanterns are twinkling from the edges of other rafts, and shoreside towns ain't nothing but a shining bed of lights? Sam met folks along the way, rich and poor, white and black. The river, you could say, was Sam's schoolhouse. But the Civil War was coming. The river was soon clogged with soldiers and gunboats, and steamboat days for Sam and everyone else was done for. About Sam becoming a writer. With war fever infecting people far and wide, Sam tried soldiering, but it didn't take. There weren't much sand in his craw for killing people. And much more than that, he was very unfavorable being killed himself. So he up and quit after 2 weeks. Then some old cowpoke discovered silver in the hills of Nevada. Sam heard the call and wanted to waltz on in on it. So he lit out and staked a claim and started hammering in the rock. But that didn't earn him no more than blisters and a sore back. By and by, Sam became a newspaper man. And a right good one too. When the news was thick, he read it. And when there weren't any news, well, Sam told some real stretchers. One time, he called a gunslinger a name and got himself challenged to a duel, from which he had to skedaddle pretty lively out of town to save his skin. But them stretchers and stories were slowly making Sam into an honest-to-goodness writer. Sam's first famous story was about a gambler who bets on a jumping frog and gets tricked and loses. The story is called The Celebrating Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. It's funny and it slides down pie easy. Soon, book folks said Sam was a for-real writer. That's when he tried out a new name. It was an old riverboat term he liked the gush of. On the river, folks would let down a rope or chain to test the depth of the water, like dropping a stone or something in a hole in the ground to see how deep it was. "Mark Twain," they'd call out when the river was deep enough for the boat to pass. Sam liked the sound of it and took it for his own, and it stuck right nicely, too. Mark Twain. About Sam being a stage performer. Me? I'd rather wade high neck in a hog trough than stand up before a parcel of people eyeing me up and down. But Sam loved giving talks to folks. Had a scratch for it. Especially when they laid out hard cash to hear him. He read from his stories, he told about his travels. He liked to drawl and stop in the middle of this and that and leave the audience dangling. Then he'd snap too, quick as a snake. He said wise stuff like, "You can't pray a lie." He poked fun at himself. Nothing so needs reforming as other people's habits. And sometimes he poked fun at everybody. There are several good protections against temptations, but the surest is cowardice. There's lots of sayings he says, but there's a few my favorites. Folks just plain took to Sam, and it warn't long 'fore he was giving his talks all over the country.